Series win over the Mets at their house in Citi Field. The Marlins are playing spoiler.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. And on today's show, we're going to recap this series against the Mets. The Marlins are playing spoiler as they close out what had been a dismal month of August. They closed it out on a positive note, taking 3 out of 4 in Citi Field. We're going to talk about expanded rosters as today is September 1st. Marlins are already making moves. We're going to talk about some of those players, as well as the injured players that are currently on the Marlins. I think at this point in the season, we tend to forget about who is on the injured list, especially if they haven't been contributing to the big league team in quite a while. I think it's time to just look at these players and see what they offer the Marlins and the timetable on their return. Let's talk about this series win over the Mets. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect this. Now, I tweeted out Saturday night, right before Yuri's start, it was Friday. Fridays was when Yuri pitched, that I feel confident with Yuri and Edward Cabrera on the mound in back-to-back days that the Marlins can win this series. And I was just getting flamed because Yuri pitched 2/3 of an inning and the Marlins lost that game 19-9. So everybody, I take full responsibility for that Yuri start, but I wasn't technically wrong because the Marlins did end up winning the series. So it just wasn't in the manner I expected. I didn't expect the Marlins to win a series when Yuri goes 2/3 of an inning and then Edward Cabrera goes 4 innings, giving up 5 earned runs. But you know what? Wins are wins. I'll take it. Game 1 of this series was pretty simple. Simple formula for how the Marlins won. They put the ball in play. They forced the Mets defense to make plays, put the pressure on the defense, and New York couldn't do it. New York had 3 errors in that game. Of the Marlins' 7 runs, 2 were earned. There were 5 unearned runs that the Marlins scored because of Mets miscues. So that was my big takeaway from this one. Nothing crazy. Adam Major got the start. He was solid. Nothing spectacular, but a solid start for what was his second start on the Marlins, and I expect to see more of him moving forward, more about the rotation and how the pieces are going to be put together the rest of the way later in the show. That second game, that was the Yuri blow-up. The Mets scored 12 runs after 2 innings. I turned off the game. I'm not one to sit there and watch blowouts. When my team is getting blown out, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see how many runs the Mets can score. I'll keep tabs on it just to see, who, if somehow the Marlins can make an effort to come back. But in a game like that, I had no visions of a comeback. The Mets, they end up scoring 19 runs. It's a bloodbath. Javier Sanoja was pitching again. He's become one of the Marlins' top relievers over the past week, at least this past week, the last week of August. So I actually kind of want to see Javier Sanoja pitch a few more times. Not saying that I want the Marlins to lose, but from a pure entertainment perspective, it's fun. I mean, I saw something where if he pitched one more time, two more times, he would be qualified as a relief pitcher technically, which is just crazy. He pitched 3 times last week. That's not good. You don't want that, but you got to admit there's an element of humor to it at the end of the day. Third game of the series, this is where the Marlins just honestly gritted out this win. And this is a team that is out talented by the Mets. The payroll's not going to add up remotely close to what Steve Cohen is spending on his players. You know, the Juan Soto contract, Francisco Lindor, for example, the big name superstars. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you still have to play the games. And that's kind of my mantra with sports. And especially being a fan and somebody that comes on a show to talk about the Marlins every single day during the week. Payroll, you know, you have your free agents. You could dwell on that. Go ahead and dwell on that. Sure, it's not going to do me any good as a Marlins fan. I understand the position we're in. The Marlins will never be like the Mets. But on any given day, in any given series, you can outplay these teams. It's just execution. Let's take a look at how this game went. The Marlins put up a 5 spot in the first inning. That was, you had an Heriberto Hernandez RBI double, Eric Wagman with a 2-run double, and then Joey Weimer with a 2-run double. So 3 doubles in that first inning. Give the Marlins a 5-0 lead. Here's the thing, though. Edward Cabrera wasn't very sharp, and it showed early on. The Mets, 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 3 in the third. This was an 8-5 game entering the 4th inning. And then the offense started to slow down a little bit. The Mets went on to tack 3 more, 1 in the 4th, 2 in the 6th. So all of a sudden, this was a very tight game, and you felt like the Marlins could choke this lead away. They did it before. We've seen them do it before. And at one point, let's see here, it was tied, unless I'm mistaken here. Yeah, it was tied entering the 7th. It was 8-8. So the Mets came all the way back. And then in the top of the 7th, the Marlins retake the lead. They get 1 run. Connor Norby sacrifice fly. Connor Norby back from injury. So you're up 9-8. You still want that insurance run. You know, you still want a run or two to make yourself feel better heading into the bottom of the 9th. Connor Norby strikes again. 2-run double on a line drive to center field. The Marlins are up 11-8. Tyler Phillips comes in the game, and if you've watched Tyler Phillips pitch, you know that he's going to get the job done. He's my favorite relief pitcher on this team. Nothing changed, by the way, in terms of his attitude after the game. You watch the camera, you watch the broadcast, and his face is just, he's in another dimension. He's so locked in. He's so competitive. So he's a scary guy when it comes to closing out baseball games. Marlins get the job done. On Sunday, this was just Sandy Alcantara being Sandy Alcantara. El Caballo is back. There's no doubt about it. The confidence is there. He's throwing 100 miles an hour on his last pitch of the game. Sandy goes 7 strong innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. His ERA is 5.66, which isn't spectacular. But if you consider that it was well over 7, it was over 8 at some points in this season, you're seeing it gradually drop down. Sandy Alcantara is that guy. He is our ace as long as he's in Miami. It's always going to be our ace. There was an instance in which the benches cleared. Sandy throws a changeup inside to Mark Vientos. It clips Vientos, and Vientos stares back at the mound. Sandy didn't like that. Don't mess around with Sandy Alcantara. Don't be staring Sandy down. Because who do you think you are? This is my mound. Okay? Like there's a lot of choice words I could have, but that fired me up. Sandy Alcantara fired me up because he was fired up. I haven't seen that competitive drive, that fire in a while, and it was great to see. Just pumped, man. Sandy, we kept him at the deadline. Best decision the Marlins made it alongside keeping Edward Cabrera. That made me so excited and so thrilled that Sandy is still a Marlin, that Edward was still a Marlin, and now we're seeing the results. Sandy has hit his groove once again. The Marlins win this one 5-1. They were up 5-0. It never really felt in doubt either. When Sandy was on the mound, it never felt like the Marlins were going to lose. Getting the save in this one, or not the save, but pitching out of relief in the 8th and 9th was Calvin Fauché and Freddie Tarnuk. I just wanted to mention Freddie Tarnuk, who is back again with the Marlins. I mean, they just keep sending him up and down, back and forth. So credit to Freddie Tarnuk. He's got good practice at packing up a suitcase and hitting the airport. But hopefully for his sake, he can stick around a little bit. Sandy Alcantara, though, was dominant. Just El Caballo. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the expanded rosters for the Marlins. The Marlins are already making moves. Today is September 1st, which means the rosters expand. More about that right after this. Marlins fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. Real people are getting paid to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Back here on Locked On Marlins, I appreciate all the everyday listeners making Locked On Marlins part of their daily routine. 1 month left in the season. It's already September 1st. Doesn't feel like it. The season's flown by. But when September hits and the calendar turns over, the rosters in Major League Baseball expand. And we're already seeing that as we speak. So in September, I believe a few years back, it was a lot more, I guess, the expansion was greater than what it was. I forget the exact number, but the roster now goes from 26 to 28. In previous years, it was way larger. I want to say 40, but I think that might be wrong. Marlins have made 3 call-ups already. And let's just run through them really quick. Michael Peterson, relief pitcher. I've talked about Peterson briefly on the show, only to say I don't think he is somebody that the Marlins should even keep on the 40-man. Nonetheless, they're going to give him an opportunity. He was traded back to the Marlins from the Atlanta Braves earlier this season for cash considerations. In the minors in Jacksonville, or just in general, in AAA this season, 33 games, 36 and a third, an ERA of 4.46. I don't see it. I don't see it with Michael Peterson. I guess he's got a little bit of a strikeout variety to him. He can strike out some hitters, 47 strikeouts and 36 and a third, but that ERA is inflated, and he really hasn't had the success when he's been in the majors. Last season, 19 and 2/3, an ERA of 5.95. Second player that I want to talk about is Luarbert Arias. If you remember, Luarbert Arias was on this team at the beginning of the season, and he was somebody that I had penciled in to watch for in spring training to potentially make the opening day roster, somebody that I really liked out of the Marlins bullpen. It didn't go so well at all. So he pitched essentially the month of April. His stats, ERA 10.61 in 9 1/3 innings. His second opportunity with the Marlins hopefully is a little bit better. It really can't get much worse at this point. And that's what you're hoping for a guy with like Arias, who doesn't throw necessarily hard. Now, in AAA this season, he did settle down in 18 and a third innings. He went with an ERA of 3.93. He didn't really strike out anyone, though. Only 7 strikeouts in those 18 innings for AAA Jacksonville. And I find it curious that the Marlins decided to call him up rather than more of a high upside guy like Josh White, who I believe has earned a shot and has deserved a shot for a while now. Arias is kind of a placeholder, kind of an arm just to get you to the end of the season. And honestly, that's a lot like Michael Peterson as well. So are they exciting call-ups? No. And no disrespect to Michael Peterson and Luarbert Arias respectively. It's just that's what it is. Marlins fans, we're ready for Joe Mack. We're ready to see Robbie Snelling, and we're not seeing these guys yet. Probably not going to see them until mid-April next season. Well, not necessarily Joe Mack, possibly Joe Mack. I feel like at this point, definitely we're not seeing Robbie Snelling this year because team control. You can get an extra year of team control depending with the date that you call players up, when you call prospects up. And sometimes teams adhere to this, sometimes they don't. You'll see a top prospect sit in the minors until they hit that deadline, and their clock will start, and their parent club that has control over them gets that extra year. Of course, with the Marlins, they might want to do that with their prospects like Joe Mack, like Robbie Snelling. And that's not good. So I am recording this, and I just saw on Twitter, this is my live reaction to this, Edward Cabrera has a right elbow sprain and will be going on the IL. He will be further evaluated. That's from Christina De Nicola. That's not good. Okay. Well, that just kind of puts a wrench into the Marlins rotation plans again. Maybe we do see Snelling. But it does tie me into the next segment, though, which is injured players. So let's talk about immediate reaction to this Edward Cabrera news and also a couple more injured players that could be on their way back to contributing for the Marlins. That's disappointing news. We're going to talk about this right after this. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football-backed PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's a really quick, easy way of playing fantasy sports, and it can be a great way to follow along with football if you don't have a team, or if you have some favorite players that you believe in, you want to see them do well. Well, then put some money on, and you can win some money. And the best part is that even if one of your picks misses, they have something called flex play, so you can still double your money. You can win without being perfect. I think that's a really cool feature of PrizePicks. And if you're interested in playing PrizePicks, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Locked On Marlins listeners, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make our favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link down below in the show notes. Thank you for helping us out. And remember that Locked On Marlins is on all the major podcast platforms out there. You can listen to the show wherever you are. Although if you're watching on that YouTube channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, click that thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. And I can't believe we're already in September. I am shocked at what I just saw. Of course, that was a live reaction. I was trying to find something on Twitter, and I saw the Edward Cabrera news. So Edward Cabrera, elbow discomfort, hits the injured list, or elbow sprain, rather. And I just hope it's nothing serious. But with a month to go, I wonder if the Marlins are even going to push him to return. It's disappointing because he was having such a great year. It's kind of like Kyle Stowers. You don't want to see somebody end their season injured. Well, let's talk about these injured players. Marlins have seen a lot of them now. I mean, 2024 was bad in terms of just injuries and the use of players over and over, pitchers, like 60-something pitchers. It was crazy. This season, I feel like the core, for the most part, stayed intact. Sandy stayed healthy. Edward stayed healthy pretty much up till now. It took a while for Kyle Stowers to get hurt. He was playing at an MVP. He was an MVP level. He was an all-star. But Kyle Stowers is injured. Let's see here. You have Max Meyer went down with an injury earlier in the year. Griffin, Conine, Ryan Weathers. But the Marlins were playing their best baseball without those three. Without Weathers, Conine, Max Meyer as well. Connor Norby. So they've had injuries, but Augustine has stayed healthy. You've had Stowers, for the most part, stayed healthy. And then the pitching staff, Edward Cabrera, Yuri Perez, Sandy Alcantara, that core three. So your 5 best players for the majority of the season were healthy. And that's what you want. I don't think the Marlins would have been in the position they were in at the trade deadline, hovering around 500, if any of those guys, especially on the pitching side of things, had been missing time. So going back to the players I mentioned that got hurt earlier in the season, Max Meyer, who's out for the season, he had a hip issue. Griffin Conine could be on his way back this year. Ryan Weathers as well. How do I feel about them moving forward and contributing to this team, being part of the Marlins' future? I want to start by talking quickly about Max Meyer. I'm going to keep it simple. I believe Max Meyer is a bullpen arm. I don't believe he's a starter. I think we've had a large enough sample size to realize that. Move him to the bullpen when he comes back in 2026. Ryan Weathers. I think from top to bottom, Ryan Weathers has a ceiling that is sky high. That guy's really good. He's got great stuff. One of his things, though, one of the issues is his ability to stay healthy. And we saw this last year. We've seen this year. The guy just gets hurt. Now, he's expected to return next week. And I think that would give him a solid cameo at the end of the year, a solid, highlight reel, an opportunity to just go out and pitch without any pressure on him. You're coming off of an injury. Yeah, you might be taking it easy. You're not going to be thrown into the fire going 8-9 innings right off the bat. But Weathers is somebody who can take over a game. And I'm excited for his return, because if he returns and just balls out, then it's just more excitement, more hype for what could be a really, really, really good rotation next season. Weathers can be a part of that. Yuri, Sandy, Edward, Ryan Weathers. You have Snelling waiting in AAA. He was just waiting for his opportunity. The future is so bright. Griffin Conine. Conine was tearing it up in the month of April, and he goes down with a shoulder injury. Initially, we all thought he's missing the end of the season, and then it's revealed, hey, he might come back. If he does, I think that's awesome, because his dad is Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, and honestly, he's just having a great season. He'll get his playing time, especially against righties, and the power's there, and honestly, the hit tool is there as well. At the beginning of the season, he'll play really good defense, cannon of an arm. Remember that home run robbery from earlier in the year, right at the start? I think that was the opening series against the Pirates. So excited for Conine, excited for Weathers and their return. But it does suck that you got Edward Cabrera landing on the injured list. That's just unexpected. I did not expect that. I want to wrap things up with quickly mentioning this DM I got from Fins Up 3000, and bear with me here because it's a interesting conversation to have. He said, "Can you please talk about this Clayton dilemma? What I mean is the dude has consistently made terrible decisions and has cost them games, no doubt about it. Don't trust him with in-game management. However, there is no doubt the Marlins have exceeded expectations this year. We have seen true player development across the board from MLB down through the farm, instant contributors at the professional level as well. Eddie has now become an ace, and Sandy's confidence has been rebuilt, shown today by him absolutely wanting the smoke. Does Clayton get any credit for this? Some, none, partial? Is it Peter Bendix and Clayton is just there? Does his ability to develop make it up for bad decisions? Honest questions, and I just don't know where the credit goes and where it doesn't. It's a very complex topic for me, and I can't fully determine where I stand with his tenure this year." As always, I appreciate the question, Fins Up 3000. And for those watching or listening, you can always tag me, shoot me a message, ask me a question, in the YouTube channel, and you can be featured on the show as well. Does Clayton get the credit? And I know we're out of time and I got to keep this short. I don't like Clayton McCullough as the manager. I don't. And I think the emergence of Kyle Stowers is more of a Kyle Stowers thing than it is a Clayton McCullough thing. I think Augustin Ramirez being Augustin Ramirez is more of Augustin Ramirez than it is Clayton McCullough. The pitching side of things. Director of pitching, Bill Hazel, Daniel Moskis. Those guys, the credit that they've done behind the scenes, working with Edward Cabrera, working with Yuri off of Tommy John surgery, and Sandy Alcantara sticking with him, sticking with the process, even in a rough season. Clayton doesn't have the fire, to me, that I would want to see in a Marlins manager. There have been times where he's just very nonchalant about it. Just in game, his facial expressions, he doesn't have that fire that I want to see out of a manager. He's a rookie manager. You got to give some, I guess, leeway. But the decision making for me obviously hasn't been there. I just don't think Clayton McCullough is the reason why this team is winning as much as they're winning this year. I really don't. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I don't like him as a manager, and that's my personal opinion. I think there were better options. There are, of course, better options, and we'll see what happens. But this is Peter Bendix's first selection. I have no realistic visions, let's put it that way, of the Marlins moving on from McCullough after one season. I do want to see improvement. And if I see improvement, if the bullpen decisions get better, if the in-game decisions get better, and I see a little bit more fire and more, action and ready to go, it's game time. If that comes into play, then of course my opinion can change. But I'm a competitive person. I want my team to be competitive. And there's been some decisions that frankly have been uncompetitive, have been actively losing decisions that it's like you're trying to lose. And I can't get behind that. So with the Marlins exceeding expectations, it's been great. I give more of the credit to Peter Bendix for hitting the right buttons and getting the right people in here, as well as the players, not necessarily McCullough in general. We're going to wrap it up here. The Marlins got a series against the Nationals. That starts on Monday. It is Labor Day, so hopefully everybody is enjoying their day off if you have one. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.